I'm glad the title of my lecture has been introduced already. It's exactly the topic I want to deal with. I start with a maybe well-known image of Stuart Brand analyzing a house in its properties, in its different parts, relating to a time schedule, and of course the changes in the you have from sight, which does not change, at least not in geological aspects, and stuff which changes maybe every week. And these different these different time horizons are also subject of changes, and even a house is in a constant transformation. And besides these possibilities of transformation in itself, there is another one, and I start here with an example of Adolf Loos, where there is an extension of a house which originally had this volume, and Loos added this part, and by that he changed this building to a certain extent, which I would like to state. Especially we see it in the same direction as we saw it from the street. There is a wall. This wall, especially in this floor, this wall was an outer wall and has been removed to be possible to connect it with this main living room in its extension, which is one of the reasons of the addition this building has experienced. But what Loos had to do is to fix structurally the walls, the outer walls of the former house that were on top of that one. And so he had to, especially in one floor, he had to change he had not just to create a larger room, but this larger room is characterized by what you don't see here in extension, by a beam that is carrying the loads that come from upside. So this is not just a larger room, but a room that is articulated by these statical interventions. Here you see it from the other side. And in the back, seen from the garden, he not only added a part, but even something like a little tower. So what we are dealing here with is Umbau. It's a German word that is not easily being translated into several languages, especially in English. There are almost a dozen words that interpret this measure. But all of them are included in the German word Umbau. Can I have the little light? Sorry. Very good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So up to Loos, Loos has changed something in the conception of Umbau and introduced it into modern architecture. Up to his time, the hierarchy of scales and of interventions in different scales had an hierarchical character. It was the introductions of shops or apartments, or furnishing of apartments in larger buildings were a kind of minor things, minor design problems, and at least they were not not befitting the major architects at the height of their productivity. Loos has changed this attitude by creating a conception of Umbau that was not inferior to kind of proper architecture, but was resulting in a work ambivalent, in a work of the same rank of buildings and even of city planning. Well, there is one other aspect I already had the chance to mention this forenoon in a little discussion, namely that even the process of design, of architectural design, is from when it proceeds from one. It's a series of decisions which appear in a certain schedule, in a certain time, and even in that process, design of an individual architect more and more takes the aspect of Umbau, of a transformation, because you have earlier decisions and you have later decisions, and necessarily the later decisions are dependent on the earlier decisions. You have to live with your early decisions in a design, to live with them or cancel them. So this again is a situation in which you are confronted with things that are already done, and it might even be it might even be easier to remove in a transformation some results of decisions of other people than it is for yourself to cancel decisions of your own. This is a methodically aspect of transformation, which is appearing in your own process of designing. I add another example of Loos's interventions of a villa in the beginning of the 20th century, where he adds a zone of building around an existing villa, creating rooms of about 3 meters wide, consisting of rooms about 3 meters wide around the whole building, and even creating different aspects, different characters. I avoid to say different atmospheres, because the word atmosphere in theory has been undergoing a mistake. For example, the German theoretist Gernot Böhme has demanded that in architecture even the producing of atmospheres is possible and necessary. Now, I don't think that this is a reasonable argument, because atmosphere is something that is a product of afterwards. It's not a notion of production, but a concept of production, but it is a concept of consumption afterwards. If something is not even designed, maybe it's even rotten, and this is creating some atmosphere which is not or even cannot be a result of design and production. What I would like to, this is still of this zone around the villa of the intervention of Adolf Loos, but what I would like to state is that Loos even came to his concept of plan of volumes, as his German, as the German word Raumplan has been translated, which by the way is not created by Adolf Loos, but by one of his pupils and companions, by Heinrich Kulka, and it's consisting in the idea that the economy of planning in a plane surface, in a floor, where you arrange rooms and you think over uses of rooms, and there's something left, there's room left, and you try to get rid of this left spaces, and you create a certain economy of space and of use in one plane, in a horizontal plane. Loos has transported this economy into the section. And he said rooms don't have to be the same height all over, and you can stand very, very small rooms. The best example is a theater booth, where you have a tiny room, but in front of you you have the auditorium, and so you can stand these rooms. Loos said the mankind will learn to play chess in space. And one source of this idea, of course it was not Loos's invention, but he made it adaptable and applicable system. It was not his invention, but he made a system of it. I have lost the line for the moment, but nevertheless, the basic one way of doing something is just parting a full height into half, if it's enough, and still creates the height of 2 meters or only a little more. Then you have already 2 surfaces, for example, executed in his house type in the Vienna Werkbundsiedlung, where there is a part that is only 2 meters high, and resulting into when it is doubled into a space of 4 meters, which is very comfortable and surprising in a living room. This is the other house. He did it the other way because he wanted to create a symmetrical building with 2 of these houses, and he introduced into the volume of the house certain smaller volumes which follow each other, even where they are where they are passed. They are passed even diagonally, and Josef Frank would extend this concept to an more open concept in an important article where he stated his introduction with the title the house as path and place. I give you another example of a remodeling, which is not even, if you just see the building, you wouldn't believe that it is a remodeling. It's Palladio's Basilica in Vicenza, intervention kind of statically, where a medieval hall broke down in parts and was by his intervention made working again, and creating even by its equal distances of a shape that is extendable to a certain amount. It consisting of a scheme that was not even invented by him, but already used by Serlio before, and also was characterized as a Venetian, but reinforcing the outside and the walls of this hall by intervention that was not only statical but also social and contributing to the city. This is how Palladio published the system, which in fact did not look like that. In reality, the ground floor looks like that. You see that it's only existing on three sides, and on the upper part of the picture you see buildings in the surrounding, which are approaching the building until a few meters, and there are even parasitical uses in the surrounding, in this new spatial system that counteract, but still they don't disturb and don't destroy the principle. Now, there are different scales of intervention. They are also existing in the city context, and for example, in many European cities you have a picture, an image like that, where older houses belonging to the regulation of a narrower street are replaced by higher buildings representing and following broader streets in new regulations. So in a kind of you see both pictures of a city in one appearance, and very often these freestanding firewalls are kind of nondescript, have kind of nondescript appearance, and they are not architecture by themselves, but they are just results of of rational decisions, but in a smaller scale, where you can't, where you don't, where you are not aware of them. There is one house in Vienna. I had a chance and urgence to overwork. It's a Baroque house with 4 floors and 4 top floors, and having an apartment in each of them, or sometimes 2 apartments, which is on the left side accompanied by a later building, which is stepping back for a little distance. Sorry. It's unfortunately this point doesn't work. Yeah, here it is. We are talking of this house, and this is already the state where this this is still the state where the side of this firewall has been built on by another building. It's in the Viennese Jewish quarter, kind of a ghetto, and in a later stage, this wall has been shown free, because the new building of the late 19th century went back to this position. This is a ground floor building that is not relevant for this fact. In fact, this is this firewall resulting from the recessed new building in late 19th century. And the same architect who erected this building thought, well, we can't leave this firewall without any decoration, because it's just ruining the city landscape. So let's do arches like this and a little architrave on top of it. And in my remodeling, it was, of course, possible to introduce windows into this wall, and I also followed the idea that a wall like this should be kind of nondescript, not architecture by itself, but just resulting in some casual appearance. Now, this also included that the arches introduced at the erection of this house could newly be used as introducing windows into this wall. And when it came to the execution, this is drawn up where these arches would be appearing in the inside. And what came out here is that there was an older frame, in fact resulting from the 14th century, when actually this wall was free and had a free side to the central square of the ghetto. And anyway, now there was a dispute between myself. Even the Landmarks Commission would have granted that this could be taken out and maybe used somewhere else, and the client very much wanted to do that. Anyway, it would have cost a lot more to take this out and maybe use it somewhere else. And I tried to persuade and succeeded in this persuasion the client that there are even in other old, even Baroque houses, there are introductions of a certain informality. For example, in this protruding part having a sight along the street. So finally, I succeeded to have in this nondescript surface something still even more disturbing, the regularity of the part regularity of this surface, and from the inside this looks like this, and as I said, this solution, of course, is even cheaper and makes the whole thing nondescript and looking like nothing. Something I like very much. If the result of something is looking like nothing, and on the other hand, you had of course anyway you had a better view from this part of the building to the old square of the ghetto than you had on the main facade, on the main Baroque facade, towards the actual new, much larger square. Now, maybe this is a little jump, but I would like to introduce an intervention which is similar in some way or a theory and an approach of building that is in some way corresponding to this use of an existing window. I refer to, I would like shortly to introduce in a very almost superficial way an initiative there are several initiatives like that, but this is one in Munich by a young group of architects. They call themselves Mezzo. This project of them is called Mezzo. The general approach is an abbreviation of the words open place, open decision, and they call it OPOD, OPOD. And this special project in Munich they call Mezzo. Obviously architects in the last decades are fond of pretty abbreviations. It's not Mezzo is not spelled with double Z, but with TS. Mezzo TS for this project. And it's, as I said, in Munich. It's this lot here, but not developed at the moment, and they have introduced a design process of where they make a collective approach to the design of this house, of which I can only I even wanted to take part in it. In fact, it was not possible because of my lacking knowledge and use of the computer in context with other participants. But I just want to give a certain impression. And one basic thing is that they separated, that they produced two approaches of the design process. One with a call for ideas. They had a group established first, and then they called in this group for ideas on certain topics. It was regulated in a very concise way. And at the same time, at the other side, these ideas were collected and corrected and worked out for to designs in several steps of recording, of control with the participants, with what they called Entwickler. Now, the literal translation of entwickeln, of an Entwickler, would be developer. Now, a developer is something totally different. This is not meant by this expression, but it's one part is even these persons are not different. They can join in both positions. So there is a call for ideas, and there are ideas brought, and on the other side there are control and composition to certain designs from another group. But this the people taking part can exchange. Now I give just a few not systematic images of these approaches. This is, for example, for the whole plan resulting. The street side is to the left, and the court side is to the right. For example, there is the idea to have in the ground floor a thoroughway. Or this is a little later idea, and which already has gone through certain controls in design. Or this is for a detailed, for an emergency exit, for how this could be solved. These are plans of, in that case, plans of the ground floor and of top floors. So is this. And one important thing is that in their for products they used they tried to use existing building parts from buildings that were broken down or that were in aspect, awaiting being broken down, and these are collected in so-called mines. That was the expression for the sources of material like that. Here we have sheets or plats of clay or metal sheets of other buildings that were going to be demolished. And what I want to show and give an impression is in what appearances this is resulting, and also these appearances have sometimes the aspect of looking like nothing, being nondescript, or having even some character which would not possibly result from individual design processes. So this is something which is the basic message I would like to convey, that this necessity, which is now an ecological necessity to reuse material and building parts, and not only buildings but even parts of buildings, to reuse them is not a compromise. It does not have to be a compromise and an hindrance for architectural development, but on the opposite, it can enrich these appearances. In this case, you even have a symmetrical appearance, which, as you remember, does not coincide with the plans so far. Or this is one of the last results, and it's even creating the decision about decisive elements of, for example, in this case, it is individual building components that are asked for, a frame and marquees, which are individually sought in, looked for in mines. Where can we find a building part that fits into that necessity and in this other one? It does not have to look to show this idea very simply. I don't remember. This is one European building. I think it is in Brussels. I forgot. But this is a very simple, it's also charming in some way, but it's showing the idea very simply and even with a certain amount of additional control. It can look even less clear, but still can be an contribution to architectural development. Maybe it won't always look like this. It is, in fact, this building San Marco in Venice is also almost totally consisting of, in German it's the word spoli, and I don't know how you would call it in English. I think the word is also used for it. For example, all these columns are taken or robbed from other building sites, and you can question the topic of authenticity in architectural design. It's in some way anonymous contribution to a whole that finally it still or again is. Now, talking of a kind of anonymization of design, we have there is especially known in Vienna the work of and the influence of Konrad Wachsmann, who was in Vienna. He did this before, or in the United States and in Japan. But in Salzburg, in Austria, he performed seminars between 1956 and 1960, in which very many profound Austrian architects were involved. Konrad Wachsmann came from the idea of prefabrication. But he followed up prefabrication from its beginning in the 19th century. In this case, for example, with Paxton's Crystal Palace, or with the Eiffel Tower, or even with the United States early high-rises. And in making the design not the work of one person, but of a group of of a team, and a team in the understanding not as any architectural production, similar as in cinema, is work of a team of different métiers. There is a cameraman, and maybe in architecture there is a statics engineer, and there is a air conditioner and a technical works in building. There are different métiers coincided. But the idea is to make the design itself a team work. And he had a way of separating, I don't know whether this can be read, of architectural themes like connections, material methods, construction, which means structure, modules, the measurements of building parts, elements, installations. And one thing is following here the whole thing, the whole time schedule, definitions, because all the rest of the themes worked over in 2 days and reported in a third day. And after that, these themes are rotated to another group. The groups consist of the first 21 people that applied for the seminar. And because the idea was that these would be the people most interested. Unfortunately, it was solely masculine, solely men, but not because Konrad Wachsmann wouldn't have taken women. There were just no women that applied. And this rotation system followed on different tables, and there was one table where there was one table where the reports took place, and from this development, magically, by some wonder, a project resulted. Of course, it was the steering capacity of Konrad Wachsmann, who joined all these ideas and these developments into a certain theme. For example, a cantilevering covering, like here, or even in that case a hall, but in that case not even a hall, but a hall, several stories of halls. Here you see in tight posture myself on one of the tables, one of the how do you call it, boards in the room. I visited these seminars in 58 and 59, and there were of course resulting student projects. For example, this approach to the materiality of building, the modular consideration of building elements resulted in this case, for example, in the design of a shopping center. Here the different parts, and where the use, the general use of the whole thing was clear, but the arrangement of spaces had a very abstract character, providing space for shops, also the providing of the approach of where from one side or access from public from both sides was already open. But what was, for example, defined was the place where stairs could be. It creates these considerations created spaces of different dimensions and different possibilities. In a few years later, in another student's design, I extended the material and the aspect and the approaches to additional things, for example, to the question of an air condition, or to any spatial conditioning, also sound and light. Existing in the back was the idea of a discotheque, of having different bodily, also bodily experiences. Also, for example, the question of light. You can not only light a wall, you can also project something on the wall, but then the question arises, what do you what do you project? So it is also a question of content which arises. Well, in the same time, I'm talking of the early 60s, there was another impact in Vienna. This is the exhibition of Hans Hollein and the artist Walter Pichler, and a joint exhibition in Vienna, 1963, of these two persons, consisting of formal approach to architecture. Not only formal, but in this case, for example, the note I had here, the German text means this is a building that projects power. And this is a note of my of the time, arguing that somebody deciding whether you get a telephone, deciding whether you can get a telephone connection, or even somebody. There were the first public escalators in underground crossings, or not yet underground traffic stations, but underground crossings, and those escalators were closed off, were stopped in the late evening. And the note here is saying that somebody is stopping the escalator. This person's power is larger than anybody who could live in a building looking like that. The other connection is of this exhibition was trying to persuade with these pictures, showing apparatuses that could do very, very impressive things, and at the same time deriving a certain impression and a certain persuasion of the way these apparatuses look. Now you know that later on, in the mid-60s, Hollein created this candle shop, and later on in the 80s he built this building next to the St. Stephen Cathedral in Vienna. This is a part, an exhibit of an exhibition I did in 2015 on Joseph Frank, on the German architect, and one, excuse me, Austrian architect, and one message of this exhibition that also included comparisons of Frank's ideas and also comparisons with other ideas, either coinciding with ideas of Joseph Frank or contradicting them. This example was stated because this building by Hans Hollein met a certain aspect criticized by Friedrich Kurrent, which repeated in this drawing a drawing by Joseph Frank and comparing it with Hollein. This drawing by Joseph Frank, here's the original sketch, is dealing in 1949, shortly after the war, where the cathedral still was in reparation. It was heavily destroyed. But at the same time, it was discussed the rebuilding of a destroyed building next to the cathedral, and resulting in the idea that this rebuilding of this building that was also destroyed in the war, in a way that covered part of the cathedral, reminding of a historical situation that actually covered up this view, which was put free in the late 19th century by this building. So the idea is, let's again take the Baroque or even medieval situation of hindering the view to the cathedral in a certain way, and introduce a building like that. And this was a wooden building model, just to show how would this look and to discuss how this would look. And Joseph Frank, from at that time being in the United States, commented this with this sketch and saying that that this was he criticized this place-creating solution as relied on motives rather than substance and space. And one motive would be this portico, how he called it, this protruding building covering St. Stephen's, because it was not one house that formerly stood here, but it is part of another house, just to create this motive of closing the view. So in the Frank exhibition, was used a criticism Fritz Courant. We will deal with him and others later in a few minutes. But Courant repeated the sketch of Josef Frank, not forgetting this little lane that Frank forgot to draw, and criticizing Holland's approach just because he turned a kind of motive to the other side, and making exactly the error or the mistake that Frank criticized in the late 40s, now in the beginning of the 80s. Yeah, so we pass from here. We have to. I would like to counteract in this case Hans Hollein with another Austrian position, especially of these two architects, which in the beginning consisted of three. The third one being Wilhelm Holzbauer, who later on parted from the group and took his career of his own. But what I wanted to contrast with Hollein's approach in the early 60s is the existing of this group and at least 8 or 10 other architects who were in the range of this world of ideas. But here relating especially to the group of these three, or later on of these two. This is a school project in the mid 1950s, an elementary school consisting of these 4 classrooms, later on in a rectangular arrangement, but in an unorthogonal arrangement of positions. This school was, you probably or at least have heard of an design handbook in German appearing since the 40s by Neufert, and this school, although not built, was for decades in many issues of this design handbook. And there is another design, a church design in Salzburg of this group, in fact consisting of an extension of a stable. This was a stable, and the extension of was creating a church project, which even by its oblique tilted room created some imagery. It was called a cable car station to God, for example. So it was capable of a certain imagery, and it even in its interior. Unfortunately, I don't have a photograph of it, but this is showing the idea even better. Before the liturgical reform of the late 60s, I think, or even early 70s, where the altar in Catholic churches could and should have and should be approached from both sides, was here. This arrangement already was created, and on the other side, on the back, kind of the back side, was reserved for the children. So you had the priest could have his service from this side or even from this side. Anyway, the audience would approach from and view from both sides. Or this is a residential scheme, a competition not executed, showing the different types for different sizes of families, but also interchangeable in this respect, and creating this kind of serial arrangement. Another church of the group in its conception and execution, going over almost 2 decades in the middle of the Austrian area, in Upper Austria, a county within the land. As I said, it was a church. The church was a very important client at that time, because the parish priests, the individual persons, had a great influence, had a great power to implement designs they wanted to have realized. It's an additional system which in an earlier stage was still not in an additive and equally considered on both directions, but it had a directed statical system on the upside. On the lower part, you see the later formulation where the orthogonal directions are considered equally, and you have the height system. You have a central in the church. You have four stories of this system, which is understandable. I won't explain it in detail, but in the side you had. Behind this was the parish, the additional places, but the church on the back side had 4 units and 1, and in this case, you have the four floors heights in the central nave and 1 on the sides, but executed was this. The solution with 3 floors or 3 heights in the central nave and 2 in the side naves. Interesting is also the position of structure towards the walls. Because they are in different sides in the different buildings. In the service buildings, the walls are inside the structural, so that the structure appears in the outside, while in the church, you see it behind, the walls are outside and are creating the appearance of the structure, and of the addition of the structure in the inside. This is a monastery also in the country of Salzburg, with an also relating in the design process from an older version, where the monastery rooms, the monks' rooms, are surrounding a square court, but the church is taking up only part of this court, while finally there is a more plausible solution of the court taking up the whole area of the interior. Or this is a presentation of residential ideas, historical residential uses of modern architecture, and introducing the last one here in an own project. For me, this was this consequence was also resulting in a sketch of 1969, where also resulting from the utopies, for example, of archigram, which I considered rather formal in their approach and the result, and this is rather the idea of having the extension of the city, which is planar, which is in two dimensions, and which is ending more or less accidental and developing into sides, to transform this approach to the third dimension, where an agglomeration could take up the shape of a ant hill, and even being moving like an amoeba, but not like the walking city of archigram, but rather in an informal way. In fact, I considered the archigram approach, by all its at all its merits, I considered it being rather right-wing in the sense of being formal. I even confronted it with the approach of Bruce Goff, whom I considered left and subversive. Now back to Courant and Spalt. This is an approach to the extension of Vienna city, even under the historical knowledge and aspect of Otto Wagner, who already considered Vienna to be extended across the Danube and in a kind of circular way. This is of Arbeitsgruppe 4, Courant and Spalt, building sketches of this context. This is a competition of them for Berlin, for the Mehringplatz, in some kind of opposite, because the Mehringplatz originally was a circular square, a circular opening in the city fabric, and this one is square. Afterwards, this is a work of Friedrich Courant alone, and a church in the in the I think 80s. I'm not sure now for the time, and this is also a building by Courant, a museum hall consisting of industrial products of brick beams, which are straight, and this is in the comparison to Gaudi, arranged in a way that it moves and even suggests a vaulting. And one project, it's an actual city reuse of something, even creating part of the Vienna land townscape, impression. This is a part of a military research showing the Flak, which means Fliegerabwehrkanone. It's a defension. It's artillery against bomb air raids. And this artillery, the distribution of these artillery units around Vienna, if you look careful, you see Ringstraße here and the girdle line outside here. So this is the central Vienna. And this is all the air defension, artillery, the distribution around Vienna. In fact, these units consisted of a square arrangement of artillery, 60 by 60 meters. And the question arose, what should be done in central built-up areas? And the military said, well, we have to tear down parts of the certain areas in the city to be able to place our 60 by 60 meters units in the city. And there was one planner, Friedrich Thams, who even was city planner of Düsseldorf after the war, after 1945, who said you have to compare that with artillery installed on battleships. On battleships, there are no 60 by 60 meters distance is possible. So we have to create towers which are high enough, and as on ships, these artillery can be separated from each other and protected from each other. So, and we have that's why they created towers like this. This is also already an analysis of the architects. They were created in pairs. There was always one larger one having heavy artillery, and smaller ones which had also artillery, but mainly floodlights and for night defension, and radars. Radar was also already existing. And these pairs were a system that was installed in Berlin, in Hamburg, and last in Vienna. In Vienna there were 3 pairs of them, and they are still existing. In Berlin they have been blown up. In Hamburg there are 2 of them still existing, and in Vienna they were the latest and the most perfect ones. And with them it was similar as with the Baroque fortifications. The Baroque fortifications had their perfect state when the Turkish danger, the danger of being attacked by Turks, was already over. And it was the same case with the Flak towers. They were finished in Vienna when the attacks of bombers were already flown in a height that was not effectively reachable from the ground. They would have needed airplanes to fight the bombers. Anyway, the arrangement of the towers were perfect, not first in military geometry, but they were by these architects reinterpreted in some way. Here, by the way, here they have been arranged in a large park, in a extensive park situations where they have the ideal distance, and here they are arranged in a smaller park where they are a little close together, and here they are arranged in the court of a barracks building, and in a certain distance in a park. So there the distance is a little wide. Now here we can see the ones in one of them in the large park. Here are both of them to be seen. Sorry, here is the one in the barracks of the near the Imperial Court. These are the museums. This is Ringstraße. So it's next to the central Ringstraßen area, and it's not by chance that it does not stand in the center of this court, but Friedrich Thams took care to put it in the axis of the imperial court system. By the way, on the same place in the school of Otto Wagner, there was already envisaged or produced a design for a cathedral with a large dome in the exact same place when people, at least students, thought that the barracks would be gone someday. Well, this is how this axial position even looks still today, and this is how these objects even produce a kind of townscape of a certain era. Now these two architects analyzed this and made a step that similarly occurred with Ringstraße. In this case, a military geometry, creating a fortification and a free area in front of it to have a free shooting field. And this was reinterpreted and changed, transformed into an urban geometry that was enabled to produce an interior, an inner extension of the city. And in the same way, this arrangement, this military geometry, is transformed into a high-rise geometry, because these architects defined this arrangement as a plausible and reasonable position for high-rises in context to the city and to the built-up area. By the way, this tower is shown also. Friedrich Thams, the National Socialist planner, had his ideas how these buildings would look after the war, and part of it, this very tower has recently been surrounded and covered up with this rather trivial arrangement. It's looking like nothing, and it's nondescript, but it's a kind of a loss of the landscape, in my opinion. Well, my formulation for the group for this group of these three and two especially Courant and Spalt, was that they introduced modern architecture in Austria because they also did a lot of research. So in fact, what has been known from the 60s on, or even 50s, about Otto Wagner, about Loos, about Hoffmann, about Plečnik, about Olbrich, about Josef Frank, also about the Red Vienna municipal building, has been done by a lot by these architects and also other architects, but architects and not art historians, not architectural historians. And this is why it could have a massive influence on this understanding of the own design problems. So my formulation was that they introduced, in fact, they covered up the distance of National Socialism, where all information, even if on the own past of modern architecture in Austria, was covered and forgotten. So to repeat, my formulation was that they introduced modern architecture in Austria, but at the same time overcame modernism. And in that relation, I would like to compare them with the role that Team 10, especially the Smithsons, had in the context of English architecture. Team 10, all of you probably know that Team 10 was called themselves Team 10 because they, in Siam, in the congresses of modern architecture created in 1928, they were preparing the 10th Congress in the 50s, and had a lot of critical argument to bring on the kind of dogmatic development of the ideas of Siam. And this even was influential worldwide. I personally have been very impressed, for example, by this building, by the Economist, a building with these fantastic classical photographs, and with the corners bitten off, which was a formal experience. One had to, one cannot really estimate or made aware today. This is also, in fact, also a student's design. Next to St. Stephen's, in fact, on the opposite of the later building by Hans Hollein we saw, and in my case even resulting and creating in the idea of statically stabilizing the side forces in a building like that, and using these bitten off corners for this idea. Now, to understand this, this controversy and this contradictional positions, it was of value to understand the historical contradiction that existed between Joseph Hoffmann and Adolf Loos. This is also a table of the Josef Frank exhibition of 2015, comparing ideas, as I said, comparing different ideas with Josef Frank's ideas of people who were known to each other. Of course, Frank was half a generation later, but contemporary of Hoffmann and Loos. But also even comparing up to Herzog and de Meuron and Rem Koolhaas, where there was no knowledge of each other. But it's to compare these two approaches, you just can show the contradiction in the chair designs, or you would not. For example, no photographer would dare to photograph this dining hall of Josef Hoffmann without putting all the chairs in a row. And also it's characteristic that Hoffmann uses bent wood in this chair, but he uses it in a way that every owner of this historical chair has to care about these corners, because they break up, of course, because it's their radius is too tight for bent wood. And if you compare this with Adolf Loos's use of a bentwood chair, which results in the use of the technology, but changing the profiles of this chair from circular profiles into oval profiles. So to have in certain directions the same resistance to bending, but all over having a even lighter appearance. Well, anyway, today, that a stool, a chair, especially in a cafe, has to be lifted with one hand and maybe lifted about over a person to another position. This necessity is in today's design totally forgotten. Or the other arrangement of this furniture, the arrangement of this furniture is casual. Well, admitted it's not a dining hall, but it's another approach to the whole thing, and it's using classical vocabulary, only in a rather analytic way. There is a postament on top of the columns, which normally which in classic context would be below, or the axes here are not corresponding below and on the upside, because this is an additional arrangement of cells and windows of these cells, and this is a classical appearance where the axes are not of equal width, and so they are not corresponding, except the central one. On the other hand, even the side axes are corresponding, although they are different in size. And here, the architrave here is rather looking like a cantilevering. It's spanned in here like a cantilevering beam. So it's kind of expressed that these columns do not really carry. Should not go too much into details. Only this comparison is very speaking. Here, time is kind of shown and locked in a decorated case, while here we are kind of dealing with time in its abstract sense. Yeah, just to remember, Loos, of course, there was a contradiction, especially from the side of Loos. Hoffmann was rather noble and didn't answer to these attacks. For example, Loos said to cutlery, knives and forks that Hoffmann designed, Loos said these knives and forks can only be designed by somebody who doesn't know how to eat. Well, we have the question of postmodernity is, I think, postmodernity is, there is a lot of has been a lot of bashing. We talked about that in the morning. Meanwhile, especially, I would stand that postmodernity is not only that. It's not only that. This is out of there was an exhibition here in London in the Albert and A&V Museum on postmodernity. There was even this Cairo example of a constitutional office. But also not that is postmodern, is the only side of postmodern. From this side, a lot of bashing has been brought against postmodernity, but if something is belonging to postmodern, to postmodernity, it's deconstructivism. Or this is not what I understand with postmodernity. It's rather the inclusion of more thinking and of more aspects of design and of architectural history and of architectural existence of what is existing, because there are two sources. The one is if you think of 1980, the first Venetian Biennale of architecture was devoted to postmodernism, to the introduction of this awareness by Paolo Portoghesi, and it was called the end of prohibition. What was in this argument? What was prohibited before? It was, the one thing was to care about history, and the other was to care about the triviality of everyday architecture. Now I remember very well how Kenneth Frampton, who is present in the room, argued against that. But this is not the only side of postmodernity. This is what I wanted to make aware of. For example, there is one aspect of design. This is a seminar building by Meili and Peter in Zurich, where Adolf Križanec and myself were invited to do the furnishing, the interior furniture and things like that. This is a valid postmodern idea that a building should not have the only one character and should be out of one cast. But it should have several layers and more layers, as for example, as a city has. Why not introduce several worlds of shape and also of use, but also especially of atmosphere, but in that productive sense. And one aspect is to consider the validity of types of historical appearances. And this is a building that in that sense can be considered modern. Now, can you introduce something which is later, which is younger, or seemingly younger than the vocabulary world that this building comes forth with? Is there something which is younger? Is there something which is neutral? This is kind of nondescript furniture. These are golden ballroom chairs that you can use everywhere, and by that neglect something like chronology. Or you could even have something older in the building from the type. These same chairs which are used in this montage have been used in a Baroque palace where I introduced a restaurant, and there are even crystal chandeliers, but they are referring to the Baroque, but they are not simulating to be Baroque. But in this case, the actual building, which is a Baroque place, only that the ground floor was never used for representational things. In that case, this is an actual occurring time shift, because these chairs their type is from the early 19th century, when the idea of a comfortable chair at first appeared. A Baroque chair was not comfortable. It was representative. But in Baroque palais, there began to be introduced comfortable chairs of that kind. So this was even a time shift that was occurring in history. And there are kind of types we use. Of course, these types change when they are applied in a different way. The bicycle is sometimes with smaller wheels and is folded when it has to be loaded in a car. But for more than a century, it looked the same, and there are even gadgets that look for several centuries the same. Now, another introducing into architecture is the subject, the idea of participation, in the sense that people also take part in the decision of how their apartment looks, how it is divided. But all the important insight is that participation of that sort is not will not stay alone. Participation is also a theme of aesthetic participation. In this case, the participation model was created in a rural village near south of Vienna, and participation was possible in this case with a type of building that had had a very small plan area, but in this area there were only two supports existing as unchangeable. The individual families could arrange their plans as they wanted, but they were not forced to start from zero. They got a proposition in the house, and they could change it. Some did not change, and some changed it severely in a way that you wouldn't even dare as an architect. And even the structural openings of the windows had a maximum extent and could be arranged. Could be chosen for windows of any size, or of leaving them closed. There are plans showing resulting plans of that. For example, this is a plan you would consider very unusual or modern in a way. It is almost the plan of a community rather than a family with a large collection room. We only hindered in ideas or solutions that would be unbearable for a next client to rent this apartment. It was these 9 houses. This is an aerial photograph. The outsides of every apartment, but I won't go that much into detail. Every apartment had access to the free, either on the ground or on a terrace on top. And as I said, even the windows could be selected in a way people wanted to do, and the openings, the structural openings, still appeared in the outside, in the thickness of plaster. So it was known also for the future that these windows could be changed. And in fact, an irregular, kind of casual appearance was there as a result, which individually resulted from rational considerations. And to introduce this or illustrate this question of aesthetical participation, I show a competition of a group in which I took part in 1975 near Salzburg, in a small community where you see the existing houses having being single family houses, of which one property is that the owner can walk around his house. This is why, for example, a row house is already less accepted, because this is not possible. And in this context, there was taken consideration of this fact. So there were groups of 4 houses put together with a small area in between, which was not functionally defined in its use. We even had this street, this kind of street, from this part being having the possibility of seeing this church tower, and it was also considered to have an industrial production of these houses, but at the same time had kept free the position that people would aesthetically participate and even create their outer appearance with cliches of not even of 1975, because in fact you cannot make yourself aware of cliches that are of your very time, rather of cliches that are some 5 years old, and this probably are the cliches of 1970. So the participation of the user is a problem that also results into aesthetical considerations, and with the banality and triviality of such interventions, and also especially if you allow, or anyway you can't forbid it, that people change their houses and change your very ideas as a designing architect. And what you experience is then the misery of disfigurement of your ideas. And for this participation, it's even necessary for the individual designer to accept something like mannerism. I would like to call it mannerism, not using it as understood for the historical epoch of late Renaissance, but of something which has 2 aspects, which is once an act and a status of awareness. It's an intellectual, a conscious, resigned or whatever, and you know what you are doing. At one side, it's rational, but on the other hand, you have a sense for the irregular, for the absurd that can be brought by somebody else, and which you think is not fitting and not plausible, but it's existing. So this is what appears in your result. Some even if it's designed, if it's accepted by you, or even if it's done afterwards by somebody else. Especially Adolf Loos has this aspect that this is one base of remodeling, that you also accept that somebody else introduces his aesthetics, and which means also his ethics. For example, especially Adolf Loos has done one comparison, which has done one statement which I like to report. It's as early as 1898. He says, one wants to have a stone church, good, one goes to a stonemason. One wants a building in rough brickwork, it's built by the mason. One wants a stucco house, the stuccateur gets the commission. One wants a wooden ceiling in the dining hall, that's built by the carpenter. Yes, but here someone is bound to ask, Who manages the development of the artistic whole? I dismiss the necessity of such a thing. And in my opinion, this is necessary to keep in mind that the German word Sachlichkeit, there's no literal translation. Objectivity, it's almost literal, but Sachlichkeit, objectivity has to do with very many Sachen, very many things, very many objects. But these objects are in different fields, different métiers, different levels. So it's naive to think that Sachlichkeit, objectivity will, or realism you could also call it, will lead to homogeneity, to uniformity. On the opposite, if you follow all the things and all the objects and all the appearances and fields of thought, introducing themselves into architecture, the plausible approach and the plausible result is heterogeneity. I have, are you tired? I have a few pictures to show a recent project, namely, which is in some connection with London, namely the Vienna Freud Museum, which is consisting of the house where Sigmund Freud and his family lived for 40 years and were driven out from their surroundings by these very surrounding people, and had even the chance to emigrate. Four sisters of Freud did not have the chance. They were killed in concentration camps. And this house is now the museum of Freud. And it's a museum where there is nothing left, because Freud had the chance to take all his belongings with him, his library, his collection of antiques, and his couch. There were several trials to bring the couch to Vienna, at least for exhibitions. For example, Hans Hollein tried to get the couch for his large exhibition, Dream and Reality, which dealt with the Austrian period, with the turn of the century, between 1870 and 1930. And he was not able to get it here. The directrice of the present directrice of Freud Museum even says that if the couch came back to Vienna, this would be a falsification of history, because he was driven away. Now, what to do with this house, which is a museum of itself? It was a museum since 1971, or at least a memory place, and it has been transformed and made fit for a large number of visitors in 2020, up to 2020, from 2017 to 2020. One approach was to point out that the entrance of the house was there and not at another place. Freud, in fact, and the family lived in the mezzanine of the house, just in this floor, and everybody, the family and the patients went in here. They rang here and went in here, so that the staircase, of which unfortunately I don't have a picture, is the most authentic still existing part of the house. But now, already in 1971, the house was cleared of other. No, not completely. The top floors still are used by other. Except the top floor. These two floors have been offices and are now arranged for a meeting room of the museum, and this floor is now offices of the museum, and on this floor there are still tenants. And what the changing of the house is consisting in the approach that the door is still the one used, but there is one change in the structure of the museum. The museum was installed in the former practice room and part of the living rooms of the Freud family, and in the course of this use, the walls of these rooms were used as exhibition walls. So the material shown in this museum and the idea of a Freud museum is, of course, also to provide knowledge of the history of psychoanalysis, of the biographical information of the family, and so, and a lot of contents that can be experienced anywhere in a book or in another exhibition, whatever. So it was intermingled with the authentic experience that cannot be experienced somewhere else, to know that here was this, but now there is nothing left. By the way, this is just to show the plan of the mezzanine Freud used as his in the last phase before 1938 as his apartment. Sorry. As his apartment in the blue part, and in his practice and study and waiting room on the other side, and his, as you know, his daughter Anna Freud was also an important psychoanalyst, and had from the 1920s on, this part as her practice. Now, we know how this practice and most of the rooms looked, because before Freud left, without his knowledge, a young photographer, Edmund Engelmann, photographed almost all rooms in black and white photographs, so that we know how these rooms looked. This is a combination of two of the photographs taken from the same part of the practice, giving this appearance, and this is how pictures like that show that the museum was structured from 1971 on. And now what the question is, if we empty these walls, the authentic walls from museum, from exhibits, what do we show? What is the rest that remains? Can we do something like that? Can we illustrate in some way the position of the couch and of other things? Can we in any way simulate the library or whatever, what has been transported to London, and how can we deal with this? And we came up with the idea. It was a little competition, by the way. I invited competition of 5 or 6. And in fact, there were 3 offices part of this intervention. Walter Angonese, you might know, in South Tyrol architect, was invited, and so was I. And Walter Angonese contacted a Vienna group of architects called Artec. It's Bettina Götz and Richard Manal. We knew each other. Walter Angonese contacted Artex as local partners, and we all 3 estimated each other and decided to take part in the competition, all 3. Only Walter Angonese left the partnership because of the distance of his office. So he was only part of the concept of remodeling at one point and conceiving the exhibition at the other point. And these are drawings of the competition, entry and presentation. The idea, for example, to place transparency of these photographs before the room when entering the practice room, which is technically not easily to produce. But but on the other hand, there was the idea to produce how do you call it, rests of to lay free rests of surfaces of the walls and of the ceilings, which only partly was possible, but in any way reduce the information which is not directly connected with the walls into glass cases. First, just displays, text displays like this, and which later on came about to be glass cases, because the foundation also has a very valuable collection of original books, original first appearances. In fact, it's the 2nd largest library on psychoanalysis in the world. The first one is in Washington. And also, for example, the exhibition system. We introduced not a new lighting system, but introduced lamps in the places, in the center places of the ceilings, as these rooms were lit at their original time. And mentioning the glass cases, they went about by coming to the collection of the foundation, and to also to be able to present that. And this is the final approach. These sources on the walls, for example, are already showing the introductions of the museum, of the memory place. Those fitting best are these dark red ones, but originals of this paper of these wallpapers is in stoves, in chimneys openings like this, was to be found there. And here you see lastly the shape of glass cases that is able to introduce all kinds of exhibits, but is not higher than 1.50 meters, so that still the view over the room is still possible, at least for adults. And the glass cases also have armrests, so that you can lean onto. I do that always in exhibitions, so that you can lean on while reading or intensely watching certain exhibits without a waiter coming and saying, no, you don't have to lean on the glass cases. This is the study of the room, and the order of the material in the glass cases. Good. Yeah. This is an original mirror that was in this place, where Freud sat here in this fauteuil, designed and presented by an architect, especially to him, and the visitor or first contact of a patient, the one sitting here. So this patient being able to see himself in the mirror, and also Freud, if he leaned forward, he also could see himself in this mirror. But I won't go too much in details. This is how these rooms look now, and this is a ceiling. I don't know the word. The probe showing two layers of standards of situations, of existing situations, not readable in this arrangement, because the colors have reacted to each other. In fact, this was the late 19th century ceiling of the building, and this was the intervention that Anna Freud in the 20s, when she had her practice in here, making this kind of Art Deco or Bauhaus or whatever you would interpret it. One of her brothers, Ernest Freud, was an architect, and they were friends to different architects. Here is a room that already is a fake of 1971. This waiting room has been repainted in 1971 in a way that probably is not real, because this is not just painted and not stucco, and also this is not for sure. It was restored after the remembrance of a housekeeper and of photographs that were existing, as I said before. But anyway, this is, especially the anteroom is one still existing literally as it was. And to show that this is not the literal authentic room, it's partly made white again as the rest of the rooms, and the whole case is explained in these texts. The furniture, as the mirror you remember in the study, has been brought on the initiative of Anna Freud after 1971. So the part of this is again authentic. All the other differences have been done around these authentic places. For example, a foyer and a little cafe and also a shop to handle and there has been a severe intervention in the structure to provide space for the number of visitors. And also an emergency stair has been introduced into the former kitchens, which already was remodeled and transferred into office rooms in the 1980s. But now the ceilings have been taken out to make room for the in that room to make room for the emergency staircase of the lecture room, and it's shown where the ceilings have been where they have been removed, and in that area of the house. Of the new staircase, there is shown the history of the house, and one important history of the house before 1938 is the change, which is indicated in the different rooms, the change of use of the rooms, because the family Freud lived there for 40 years, and so the family members used these rooms in different ways for the boys, and for the room that was used for the practice of Anna Freud was used for the brothers, for the little boys before that. And even more important is the history of the house after 1938, because it was used as many other Viennese houses. Part of the apartments was used as so-called collection apartments, where Jewish families were collected, crowded, 3 or 5 families into one apartment before they were deported. And there was already before in 2003 an exhibition in the museum showing all persons that ever were living there for at least for a short time in collection apartments of this house, and only in exceptional cases the last fate of these persons was indicated as survived. Most of them did not. And these interventions of the time use of the family and the time use of the house after 1938 would not be possible if the museum would try to restructure or reconstruct anything of the original ambiente. For example, one could think of how could we not only this is the main was the main question. How could we restore the position of the couch? I forgot to mention that we did take care of the position of the couch in the way that from this photo there is taken this part, and what has been found there and has been possible to show are the holes here where this carpet behind the couch, which also is again in London. The same carpet is mounted in the practice here in London, where Freud even practiced his last year and wrote, finished Man Moses, for example, where this carpet was nailed to the wall. To the wall. So this is represented in a way, but taking care of not trying to simulate a situation. And one thing is interesting, because the family of Freud introduced a closet in about 1910. They included a closet. This is why I said include. They included a closet of that size and of a considerable depth into the first room of the apartment, and to hide the depth of this closet, they inserted also a fake wall to the sides of this closet, which is only a few inches back of the front of the closet. And did not care that this corner went down here to the floor. They did not care that this fake wall covered part of this thoroughway here into one of the rooms. And in 1980, before our remodeling, there was introduced office rooms into this room, which you remember was the kitchen, and several other rooms. And there was done an opening here in this intervention, which was covered, so that from the museum there was access to the office rooms of the museum. Now, we didn't repair this change either. We just showed, we used this thorough way, but showed this fake wall as a partition, and so from the side, still the built-in closet is now seen in its full depth. So you walk through here and can not only see what was here, but also what was changed here already in authentic times. Well, this is the very end. Thank you.